Network, VOB 92.9 FM, and of course at 95.3 FM in combination for this brand new endeavor, this brand new series. It's a six-part series where, of course, we will be looking to engage you, the young and the young at heart, and of course, various stakeholders in discussing solutions to the upsurge of crime in Barbados. My co-host today is Mr. Imran Richards. Producer is Mr. Dennis Johnson, and we have some special guests as well. Shamar Bernard. Shamar spent some time in prison and is now making a valiant effort at a renewed life. You'll also be hearing from Professor Dwayne Devonish, researcher and senior lecturer in management science at the UWI, and Miss Kim Ramsay, who is a criminologist. All right. The Zoom link is up and working. I can see everybody. I'm hoping y'all can hear me fine. Give me a thumbs up if you can. All right. Thank you so much, Kashi, who is in studio assisting me. My first time in VOB. All right, here we go. Imran Richards. Good evening to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm good. How are you doing?
I am good as well.
Awesome. Really excited about this discussion. Really excited about the guests that we have. Really excited to dig into this topic, man. I think this is such a critical topic that we need to discuss in depth, you know, and really begin to look at solutions to what we are currently facing as a nation. I think it's really important. And so I just really want to commend Starcom for putting on such an initiative. I'm just really happy to be a part of it.
Thank you so much as well, Imran, for agreeing to join us. As you said, we're discussing solutions. We hear about the problem and the problems all the time, but we never hear any suggestions or solutions. So like you, I am very excited to be having this discussion today.
Yeah, definitely.
We also, go ahead, Imran. Go ahead.
No, I'm in my mind. I think that as we kind of have this conversation, that what will be really important, especially at the start of the discussion, as we hear from more guests, is to have at least have an accurate or a good picture of what the problem is. Because in order for us to really dig into these solutions over the next 6 weeks, I think it's really important that we preface the conversation with at least giving our understanding of the scope of the problem, you know,
Yes.
What are some of the causes and so forth, and then we can begin to dig into those solutions.
Agreed, 100%. So good evening to Miss Kim Ramsay and Professor Dwayne Devonish. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Good evening to everybody.
I'm pretty good, and good evening, Barbados.
All right, Imran posed the question. The floor is open. The problem.
Definitely. In your guys' view, like, how would you describe the current landscape of Barbados as it relates to this issue of crime and violence across the country?
Dwayne, you want me to tackle this first, or you?
Yeah, you tackle first.
We are seeing unprecedented levels of violence over the past 10, 15 years, and upsurge in gun violence particularly. And more concerning is the brazen nature of some of these crimes. They're moving from private spaces to public spaces. People are shooting you wherever they see you, wherever they get at you. Who is around, what time of the day it is, whether it's a mall, a store, a shop, a bus stand. So we are seeing, as I said, an increase in the nature of the types of crimes we are seeing and the acts in terms of the brazen nature of it. I will say that it's more young people, because young people have always been at the focus of a lot of the crime for decades, from back in the 30s, 40s, 50s. When you look at statistics on crime, it was always the young cohort of persons in the society who unfortunately are the ones who commit the majority of offenses. It does not mean that all young people are negative, but those are the ones that we tend to focus, that we tend to see as the ones committing the more serious offenses. But 30 years ago, a lot of the crime was more, you know, people who engage in serious crimes, you would see them engaging in things like stabbings and, you know, even throwing a rock at somebody, or etc. Right. From the early 90s, we saw a change in the landscape of crime. where we saw an increase in guns, an increase in gun usage. And I think this will come off the back end of the drug trade, because along with the drug trade came the gun trade in the late 80s and early 90s. And that is how we saw the shift in the type of crime, the typology of crime, and the offender. As I said, the one who becomes more brazen, the one who uses a gun to solve disputes. When you look at the types of disputes, they're not even serious disputes. So people use guns to basically to get at their enemies and so on, or to solve disputes. And that is troubling to us in the criminal justice system.
Yeah, no, that's good. I want to come back to a point that you mentioned just really quick before we move on to the others, because I find it interesting for some reason, and I guess maybe because you are really well researched in that you understand the history of criminal activity and violent behavior. But in my mind, I am thinking that somehow it feels as if the offenders, and in some instances, even the victims, are becoming younger and younger. It feels like I am seeing in the newspaper 18 and 19-year-olds, 21 and 24. So, it felt to me, like before I would see individuals who would have been maybe in their early 30s or late 20s. And for me, that would have been considered young. But now it seems as if we are seeing instances of individuals who are experiencing this or perpetrating this type of behavior, almost like just out of school, just out of secondary school. But you're saying that it feels like you're saying that this has been somewhat of a normal occurrence. Like, you want to shed
yes,
more light?
if you like, for instance, in my first book, Barbados Most Wanted, if you look at the age that most of the persons in my book started to commit crimes, they started at 12, 13, 14. When Barry Jack was killed, Barry Jack was 19 years old when he was in Black Rock, and that was in 1992. So what I'm saying is that, yes, some of those men would have died as old criminals, but they started their criminal careers when they were 11 and 12 years old. So this is not, it is not surprising that a lot of persons commit crimes, the people that are committing violent crimes and serious crimes are young people, because this is the nature of offending. Young people are the ones that are not as mature as us that are a bit older. But we all know when we are like 18, 19, we're not settled, we're not mature enough in our thinking. But I'm not saying again that not everybody, all young people are negative, but those who commit crimes, they tend to be very young. As I said, 13, 14, they're not focused enough, and they do not have enough social support. They're not socialized. Their socialization is lacking, proper socialization. And then you have the influence of the peer groups. So those are the things that come at young people, and those are the challenges that we face. So what initiatives by NGOs and government is to really zero in, zone in on the young people and implement programs geared at young people to basically steer them away from a life of crime, because we understand that is the impressionable age.
Yeah, right. So sadly, Kim, this is the norm. We're just seeing it more now in these times.
Yes, I think it's because too of the internet, social media. But I'm not saying that we should normalize it. I think, as I said, what has changed is the brazen nature of the crimes. It was not like how it was. You would never hear in the 80s and 90s of a mall shooting, or publicly opening a gun and shooting at people, innocent civilians and so on. But that is what we are facing, the criminal justice system we are seeing as the concern that we really need to stamp out.
Imran, I can come in here because I agree with Kim. And I would add that when you look at the profile of many of these young offenders, we cannot ignore the social and economic conditions, out of which many of these young people have come. If you look, for example, at many of the young offenders, and you tie that back to the number of the communities, a lot of these communities carry a high concentration of unemployed youth who've dropped out of school very early, who have been described as low skill, quote unquote, and have been frustrated by limited economic opportunities. And I was speaking to someone the other day that COVID-19 has created a melting pot, because COVID-19 created this perfect cocktail of conditions: psychological, mental health, limited access to income sources, job layoff, unemployment, all of the works, to be a breeding ground for criminality, especially for young people. I've done some analysis of the percentage of young people relative to older people over 40 that have been displaced, and young people represented the significant proportion of those on the unemployment line. If you look at the NIS statistics and so forth, right now, I think the last report we had from unemployment was about 17.5%. So it's not surprising that during this period, what we consider the pandemic period, that you would have these sharp inclines at uptick in crimes, especially, as Kim said, violent crimes, and even acquisitive offenses like stealing and burglary occurring during this time.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I want to jump in because the community that I grew up in, there are 14 and 15-year-olds that through the COVID pandemic dropped out of school entirely. And are now, those individuals moved from attending Sunday school. So I serve in the church, the lone church that is in the community. And those individuals would come to youth service on Fridays and so forth. They were part, we were doing some work with them. But now, not only have they dropped out of school, but they've stopped coming to church, and they have started using drugs and so forth. So I know firsthand what you were saying about just the displacement that was caused by the COVID pandemic. And the truth is when we think about the high youth unemployment rate, when we think about the amount of young people leaving school without education, when we think about the economic challenges that many families are faced with, and maybe even as we consider broken families and homes, all of those converge to create what you call the perfect storm, that produces then this type of behavior and sees it unfold. Really, really interesting.
So as we would put it now, it's a whole big mess. Yeah, I actually got some very interesting figures today. These are some unofficial stats of major crime in Barbados that suggests that crime is actually down by 31%. I find it very interesting because when you look at social media, when you read the newspaper, when you watch the news, it seems like all you're hearing about is this shooting, this stabbing, this person is dead. And I'm like looking at these figures for the whole day and trying to figure out what's going on.
I can probably speak to that. And I think this goes back to even the article that Kim, I would have written to the newspaper. Let me give you an example. Now, it is not to be gainsaid that, crime has been, scientifically increased. We have scientific evidence that crime has increased. Technically, on a global scale, crime actually increased and decreased. Let me explain what really happened. Now, remember, we had a kind of a program, a one-year program, I call it, of stay-at-home orders and restrictions. Now, based on international trends, anytime there are stay-at-home restrictions, stringent curfew orders, just after the introduction of those restrictions, you will see that sharp decline in crime because, of course, everyone is at home. So things like violent offenses, those types of interpersonal conflicts that you would typically have when you're together, when you have the opportunity to go outside and to interface, those opportunities no longer prevail because most people are staying at home. Now, of course, on one side, those stay-at-home restrictions would create things or conditions for intimate partner violence and domestic abuse and child abuse. But here's the thing, the trends actually show that just after relaxation or lifting of restrictions, there's this sharp incline now of violent crimes. And this is all, again, going back to the melting pot metaphor, that a lot of these frustrations that come with stay-at-home restrictions and lockdowns and shutdowns, clearly all of those frustrations are released once lockdown restrictions are lifted or relaxed. So then you will see that sharp incline But then when there's a COVID-19, increase in COVID-19 cases, and the government responds by putting in a curfew or putting in a restriction on your mobility, then you will see that sharp decline again. So it's not unusual across the international sphere that you will see these kinds of ebbs and flows of crime as stay-at-home orders and restrictions and curfews are in place, and then are further relaxed when things become much better on the COVID-19 scene.
Aside of that, there's also the issue of comparison between years. So let me just give you an example. If we had 1,000 total number of crimes, 1,000 crimes, those crimes are various crimes. There's property crimes, there's violent crimes, there's firearm offenses, etc. If you are tallying 1,000 crimes occurred last year, and then this year we have 900 crimes, that is a decrease, but it doesn't mean that there are not increases in specific crimes and decreases in specific crimes.
Right.
So so for instance, again, I don't have the statistics in front of me, but let's say we had 20 murders this time last year compared to 14. So we're seeing, it seems like violent crime is always in your face. The reality is that the statistics will show that there has been a decrease, because if you had 20 last year and 14 this year, naturally there's a decrease in in murders. I'm just using it as an example. But you have an increase in a particular type of crime and a decrease in all the others. So when you are talking about, this is back to Scott Le Roc, if you're saying that there's a 13% decrease in crime, that overall type of crime, but there may be increases and decreases in in specific types of crimes.
Yes, I'm seeing that there was actually an increase in aggravated burglary this year.
Right. Yeah. Which can occur as a result of what Dwayne was just saying. With persons being home and then with the, as he called, the perfect storm, unemployment, loss of jobs, unemployment, the pandemic, etc. People will start to get it
aligns exactly with what he said, actually, because there was actually an increase in rape too, according to the figures that I received.
Intimate partner violence, and we had I think recently it was a murder, and then the guy, I can't remember, it was an arson case, and the guy was a young guy, 33 years old. And you will see a number of these cases over time as you have this frustration continuing in the country.
Right. Okay, so good. So I want to ask you guys a question in relation to that, because while I agree that COVID-19 has definitely played a role and has been a contributing factor to some of these, based on what you would have just explained, Mr. Devonish, I also reflect on previous years, not too long ago, when we had almost 50 murders, but there was no COVID-19, there was no lockdown. So in your mind, I know we talked through it just a little bit, what would you say are some of those specific contributing factors? What are, we talked about the perfect storm, but would you guys mind, maybe in your own experience or just based on the data, what would you say are some of the causal factors that contribute to specifically, as we look at these young people, what is missing? What are we not doing right? Where does the problem lie?
Those are a series of questions, and that you.
Oh man.
You have to have them one at a time.
Okay. From my experience in dealing with homicide statistics, there are so many factors that cause crimes, that cause murders, but the most common one is disputes. When I did homicide study back in 2004, we found that one of the major drivers of homicides was disputes, either on-off or ongoing feuds between persons, between groups. So what I find though is that people a lot of people do not know how to resolve conflict amicably. And if you look at some of the reasons and some of the causes of some homicides, it would blow your mind. Some of them as simple as somebody saying something that another person didn't like, and going home and getting a gun and coming back and shooting the person.
You disrespect me.
Right. So I sit back and I see people constantly, going at, what are we doing about crime? But a lot of these crimes are domestic issues, community issues, the issues of people as I said, the inability to resolve conflict, the access to firearms, which we have to deal with, during our ports, et cetera, alienation, the fact that some men see guns as a solution to problems. I have a problem with this person, I'm going to go and get a gun and solve my problem. They don't know how to reason. They do
Either
not
buy a gun or rent a gun.
They're irrational, and they have limited thinking skills and coping skills. That is how I see it, especially when I review how a lot of these homicides occur. As I said, the gun problem. Some people now use guns as a fashion statement. I have an AK, I have a what, MR, whatever you call them. But we actually have these kind of issues going on in Barbados. There's the gun out thefts. No, but we're going, as you say, you're going back to earlier years, where people turn up at fests with a gun because they like to pose with it, because it makes them look like a shotter. So, and all of this is part of the underground world, the criminal underworld, where the person with the biggest gun gets the biggest respect. So it is all about this subculture. There's a subculture that which lends to this kind of thinking that, I'm a show off that I have 2 and 3 and 4 guns. Some people say they use it for protection. Again, back to the subculture, because when you and another man are at war, you have to protect yourself.
Yeah.
It's necessary. So there's so many factors. It is, as I said, disputes, feuds between groups, feuds in gangs. Some people just, as I said, when you read these cases, you'll be just amazed at what people kill each other over girls. Some men kill other women over girls. You disrespect me, or somebody slept with another man's girlfriend, and you're gonna shoot him. So these come back now to an underlying issue of, as I said, conflict mediation, gun violence, getting the guns off the streets, and basically working with our alienated youth who believe that their only solution to conflict is to resort to violence.
Yeah,
very true. Very true. I agree with that. I would just add that, a lot of this also stems from the home environment, the family environment, how we raise our young boys and young girls. I cannot stay here and say that, we have to place everything at the level of the justice system or the level of the wider social institutions and not remember that we have a family structure that at the end of the day, it's our first encounter as human beings with understanding how to deal with conflict, understanding how to communicate, how to work with each other amicably. Those are the things that we have to look at if we are going to consider a preventative approach. But my belief is always to treat crime as a public health problem. I've always had conversations with Kim about this, about the fact that if we see crime as a public health problem, it means our approach to it is going to be the same way that we would treat to take something like COVID-19. Right. And one of the first stages, think about it, one of the first stages to deal with a pandemic or to deal with a public health problem is to understand, as you said, in the nature and the causes of the said problem. And that is through scientific research, through data analysis, and through, a good interpretive judgment. And I think that is where Kim's department come in. But after that, we have to then look at enacting those recommendations and interventions.
Let's not forget that we also have Shamar in studio. Shamar, you have lived this. You actually went to prison. You're out now and you're trying to live a different kind of life. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your story.
My name is Shamar Bernard. Friends, people out there will know me as Sham or Sinister Sham. People more know me as Sinister Sham.
Right.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
I went to prison for possession of ammunition, and I was involved in a gun battle with the police.
Wow. How old were you at the time?
29.
How did you find yourself in that situation? Like, what was your life like as a child and that sort of stuff coming up?
I had a good upbringing. Mom was always there. Stepfather played a good role. Church and stuff like that. Was one of the poorest families in the neighborhood.
Right.
But I didn't let that like hold me down or nothing like that. I always just strive to do to get there to better the family. Whatever it would take to better the family.
Right.
Maybe something positive or maybe something negative.
Ah. So that's how you ended up with a gun in your possession.
Yeah.
Well.
I heard the guys there say about man can rent a gun and buy a gun.
Is that
But
true?
yes, you can. But why rent a gun when you can rent Shamar?
Mhm.
You understand?
Right.
Why
I get
rent
it.
a gun
Serious things for sure.
when you can rent Shamar? Because Shamar is effective with a gun.
Right.
Sinister Sham is effective with a gun. So why rent a gun and then go get it somebody when you can rent Shamar? And Shamar need the money,
Right.
you know? So that's how it started up.
So that's a reality in Barbados. You're telling me I could rent a Shamar.
You could rent a Shamar. They got guys out there good at what they're doing. As social media, they go up on social media, they watch how they shoot. They
Are you
get to the galley,
serious?
they go to the galley, you practice, you put your bottles, you practice, and you do your thing. You become good at it. When you get out there now, and the real thing now, and you start to build what we would say in the positive word, a portfolio, you know, and people get to know that you get the job done, you just hit the target, you know,
So you become a recognized hitman, so to speak.
for sure.
Well, I am pretty sure many eyebrows are raised right now. I can't even get mine down. Like, this is
Crazy.
real life. This is crazy.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is,
The thing
but
is
it's
that
reality. It's a
Yeah.
reality, Scott, because and that was an article that was covered in the newspaper three Sundays ago. The whole issue of hiring hitmen now to commit crimes, and as he correctly said, that is one of the ways that Barbados is going, unfortunately. And they tend to target young boys, impressionable young persons who need money. So you will hear some of these fellas say some people kill somebody. I mean, maybe did a gun study in the prison. Some of the men in prison said, you know, they were considered hitmen, and people would kill people for a pair of sneakers.
Well,
Kill people for a pair for a shirt for $100, whatever the price is, because they want a name. And that is another thing too. A lot of these boys on the streets, they're looking for a name, for fame, and part of the subculture where they do not gain status traditionally as a male by going to school, getting a good education, getting a good job, and so on. But on the streets, you get a name, and that name carries you far. It carries you far, as I said, in traditional society, but in the subculture, a name as a shooter, as a bad boy, it gets you the girls, it gets you the guns, it gets you respect, which is what a lot of these boys want. They're aiming for respect, and to have a name. I remember a couple of years ago, we were doing some interviews, and I can't remember if it was Glendale or Dodds, but one boy said that, you know, he went and picked up a gun because his name was not ringing on the streets. He was not name blinging, and he wanted his name to be blinging, because if he went quiet, nobody ain't calling his name anymore. The reality of what a lot of very young boys are dealing with, are facing, and we, when I say we, I mean we as the traditional part of society, we have a lot of work to do in terms of reshaping the thinking of a lot of these young boys from a very young age. We can't wait till they're in primary school or 11. We have to start with them from the time they could talk, socializing them into anti-criminal attitudes and pro-social ways of behaving.
Yeah, Shamar, I'd like to ask you though, because you know, I do some work in the prison as well, and one of the things that we are acutely aware of is that most of these individuals who are in prison for serious criminal offenses were fully aware of the consequences. They knew that their involvement in this lifestyle could land them potentially either in prison for a long time or could cause their death. But for some reason, they still found themselves, neck deep, fully submerged in the culture and involved in this activity. what have you seen on the streets as some of those? What causes a young person, what causes an individual from your perspective, to get involved in that type of behavior? Is it family issues, as Dwayne would have mentioned? Does it have to do with poverty? Like, what in your experience do you believe it is?
I believe it's property. I don't believe it's family. Family could got a little to do with it, but most of the people or the young people that get involved in crime, when you look at the family structure, they got a good family structure.
Mhm.
They went to good schools. We had to carry on a program in prison. When I was in prison, nearly what's next program with an officer named Mr. Tull, and maybe drawing a lot of youngsters in between the age of 16 and 21 that in prison for gun violence. When you check, they went to good schools. Family was always behind them, had good family support. So, like, is the influence and a lot with the seeing, and
Right.
some of them poor, and then the, as you would say, the dance in the neighborhood,
Mhm.
and take care of them and make sure that they're good. And if a youngster could come and do a shooting and get $2,000, $3,000, he feel good. He ain't gotta go out there and take out a shovel
Mhm.
and spin a shovel to get $350 or $400 at any week.
That's easy money, quick money.
That's quick money.
Mhm.
I could carry home a little sign and give mama. She can want to know where it come from, but you could try to deter from that. You want to carry home a little sign and give mama. Got saying I could be out sweet like everybody else.
Mhm. You could floss a
I
little
could come
bit.
and drink a drink
Yeah.
and smoke everybody else. So
Mhm.
that is basically it though.
So you're thinking is that it's poverty that is the driving
Yeah.
factor.
Yeah.
Poverty
Right.
and the influence of the community. An interesting statistic, Kim, is that, or at least I read it somewhere, that said kids who grew up in negative family environments but good communities turn out better than children who grew up in the opposite setting. Would you say that is true?
I would say it's true because the community got a lot to
I
do with
agree.
raising a child. The community have
I
a
agree
lot.
that poverty has a lot to do with it. But also remember that poverty is not the only, there are some people who are not poor that commit crimes too.
Mhm.
They commit different types of crime. You understand? But they commit crime, obviously, with different factors. But I mean, while I understand that poverty is one of the drivers behind it, I would not sit here and say that it is the main driver of a lot of violence.
Right.
As I said, some people are just influenced by the communities. Even some people because of early dropout of school, and because they're not they drop out of school, they seem to the lure of the streets.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming. They do not have the social skills. They do not have, they do not have a lot of the other skills that can get them employed. And it's easy to fall into a life of crime. Well, I agree. That's why we always say to people that crime is multi-causal. And there's so many lanes and different avenues. Because what would make one man commit a crime or go stick up a bank is not the same reason another man may kill somebody or shoot somebody. There's so many variables at play. But I will agree that poverty it has been a constant variable in the literature as it relates to one of the drivers of criminal activity.
Yeah. And let me also add here. I mean, I don't want us to discount the pull factors. You can see from Shamar's response that lure of the financial value or the economic value of being a hired gun. We have to recognize that. Think about it this way. I mean, a lot of these young people with guns, they don't manufacture the guns. They're not the financiers behind the gun trade and so on. We know that there are certain organs out there that are well-to-do individuals who are responsible for a lot of what we see, especially from the supply side. And all they really want, as you can see there from Shamar's response, is the demand. And if you can make crime as attractive, then all the other push factors like poverty and so on, they oftentimes go out the window. Because as Kim said, you don't have to be poor to be in a life of crime. So I want us to still recognize that there are those hidden sources out there that have, as we would consider to be the well-to-do or the more affluent, who have the wherewithal to finance this enterprise that we call crime now.
I would agree.
I've also noted that the heart of man has become very cold. Because if you want to walk up to somebody and just shoot them just like that, they don't care. Then some men sit down and calculate, okay, I'm 20, 21. The most I can get is 15 years to this. I can be up 30 something, 40. The men sit down and calculate.
I've heard that talk before, for real.
Because there, I'm not saying that our prison is this, but some throughout the world are what I call urbanized ghettos or institutionalized ghettos. So men come home, they call it home. Some go prison to see their friends. They hang out with their friends, just like, just like it's any block.
But that comes back to something you said earlier, Kim. Like, we live in different times. The thing now is to be popular. Back in my day, I wanted good grades. I wanted rewards from my mom and dad for getting good grades in school. Right now, people want the most followers on Instagram. They want the name ringing and blinging on the street, like you said. And that is one way to get it done real easy and real fast.
Fame. Fame. I'm a bad boy. Nobody can around me. I from a particular block. And people on that block, nobody don't come around them because, this block got respect. It has stars. It get bigger. It get caught on the radio. Radio now.
Exactly. And everyone wants their avenue.
I listen to Hot. Let me say this right now.
Oh dear.
And I sit down sometimes with in awe. And all of these blocks in Barbados get here bigger, and the people on some of these blocks who are well-known criminals, and I am like, what is Starcom doing? What? Yes, I'm gonna call it. Oh, what are they doing? Are y'all basically enabling the behavior?
Maybe I speak on behalf of DJs. Maybe we are unaware of the reputations of some of the folk.
Right.
Come
I don't know.
And Kid, I'm from Black Rock, so I got big up my boys from Black Rock. I'm from Black Rock, don't forget. Right. But yeah,
I would admit I didn't even know half the names until they start hearing them on the radio, and I make calls to people and like, who are these people? And then I hear the histories behind them, and I'm like,
yeah.
But you guys do make a good point though, because whether it be on the radio station or social media or television or music videos, there is this glorification of crime and criminal behavior. Individuals love the fame that comes along with people knowing their name or being fearful of them or fearful of their area. So that definitely is a strong point for sure. Shamar, you were gonna say something, it seems.
I was touching on the point about the guns and how the guns come in and what's not. Guns is a big business. I know people that was selling drugs, bringing in drugs, and to start with the drugs to do guns. Wow. Guns and ammunition. Guns is big business. The cheapest gun right now is $5,000.
Yep.
Cheapest gun right now is $5,000. We got guns up to 20 grand, 25 grand.
Wow.
ARs and you know what I'm saying? So like people saying crime, we were so on to the drugs. That the guns, yes, the guns was coming with the drugs, but then there was the people that bringing the guns and didn't care about the drugs.
Right. So we were so focused on drugs that we didn't focus on guns, and the guns slipped in.
The guns slipping. Guns is big business. Big business. Guns and pills. Big business right now. So why really push with the bulky product when they could get a smaller product, smaller items, bigger value?
That's very interesting because you hardly hear about the seizure of pills as you put it in Barbados. You hear about the bigger, bulkier things like weed. Yeah.
The money really is to me that's just the side traction. The bulkier thing is just the side traction. The pills and the firearms, that's what it is right now.
Imran, it's already 10 minutes after 7. We only
I
going to
was just gonna
7:30.
say, Scott, we need to really begin to.
We don't have enough
We're ready
time.
to go to 10 o'clock,
Yeah,
guys.
I feel like there's so much to be discussed. But what can we do? You know, and Shamar, it would be great. Maybe if we can start here with your story of change. You know, like what would you say contributed to you now, trying to get your life or having gotten your life onto this path? What changed for you? And then we can begin to have that discussion around what are some of the things that we can do? What are some of the solutions? What are some of the recommendations that you guys may have? So Shamar, would you want to go?
For me, the life changer for me was laying on my back and staring up into the nozzle of the officer's firearm after the whole gun battle and what's not, you know, because I was out there doing this and I never got shot.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I never got shot in all that I did and I was involved with. And that experience of getting shot and being there, like, he ain't got the firearm unreachable. And you know, you in the position that you have put people in. So that was the main life changer for me. You know?
Yeah.
We would say to the young people, just slow down. Stop trying to speed, stop trying to go so fast. Keep away from a lot of these things that we all seeing on social media. There's something called a guarantee. And you're all seeing a lot of guarantees getting murder on social media, on phones and things when they're seeing it. But when they don't really know the thing behind that, because that's people, families, that family members, that is people that take up people and carry them and say, well, listen, why can't you down here with me to deal with business? You can stop down here and deal with business and they can go back at the road, but not knowing that the one that they might go back at the road and make a deal with the big man in another country where you can bring this man, if I don't pay by a certain time, you could do you want. He's guaranteed that I can pay you. This my guarantee I can pay you. So the agreement is set there. If you don't pay by this particular time, well,
So somebody's
I can
life
kill
is
your-
the guarantee?
Correct. Well, I can kill the guarantee and I can sell it for you. But this the guarantee that I can pay you. So most of the time you see that people getting killed, then people don't even be them is know that them there
To deal with something.
but they don't know the real
story.
story behind it. So when
Right.
you all see those people getting killed and think with them themselves that it's a fame thing. I think it ain't a fame thing. That's if you're them people business. So I will ask that the youngsters to refrain from adopting that style.
Just slow down, like
To
you
slow
put it.
down. Just slow
But
down.
it's so hard though, Shamar. You on social media, you seeing everybody with these fancy cars, everybody going the newest Jordans. You want the same thing too?
When you see anything, so you want the prison that come along with it and the grave that come along with it, because you ain't gonna push it no daisies. Is Westbury Cemetery with some grass and Wilbush. So it ain't no daisies, and prison is not a bed of roses. You could make the best out of a bad situation. Try to make the best out of a bad situation once you're there, but just refrain, just slow down. Cause you speeding, you're gonna crash. You're gonna crash.
At some point in time,
For
you're
sure,
gonna lose
you're gonna
control
crash.
and crash.
And the crash might be causing your life. You might not be able to come back now and voice your story like I did.
Might not be a Shamar.
Correct, because I was close to death. Very, very close to death.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So just slow down. Just take it easy. Whole life ahead of you.
Yeah, that's good. What were some of the obstacles that you had to overcome on your journey of change? Like how difficult or easy was it? Because I can imagine, staring up the nozzle of a gun, your entire life flashed before you, and you made a decision, look, something about my life needs to change. But I am sure that journey was a process. And like for you, what were some of the obstacles that you would have experienced or faced?
the loss of people that you think it was friends. I had to get over the obstacle of fear when I come home.
Mm-hmm.
Fear on the streets, because as I would say, remember, I was not out here snatching handbags or thieving
Right.
CDs nor nothing. I was out here hurting people
Mm-hmm.
in a serious way. So the fear of playing down the gun and carrying on my day to day life.
So fear of retaliation.
Correct.
Yeah.
How society will accept me in the work field and stuff like that as a man coming from prison. And I would say that it that's what surprised me. That's what surprised me.
How so?
Because like I was looking for a more negative response. I ain't gonna do that. I ain't get negative because I got negative responses, but I was more looking for more negative than positive. And what I would see is I would give thanks to society for, opening up and giving me a chance to prove myself where the workforce is
Right.
concerned. Ministry of Health, for sure.
Mhm.
For sure, the Ministry of Health. Big thanks to them for allowing Shamar to show what he can do,
Mm-hmm.
Because when I came home, it was a bit hard, a bit rough. And a good friend of mine, my name is Satal. When the ash came in,
Mhm.
he said, Shamar, the ash come in and thing, and got a place to think, what you gonna do? I said, I don't know. He said, if we give you $350, you could start, you could get something going on.
Mhm.
And I said, yeah. And I took that $350. I rented a power wash. I got a bride ring, and we hit the road, and we start power washing some places and washing down some places and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Quick, shortly after we was doing such good work. Me and the young man was doing such good work and stuff like that. We got a phone call asking from a man by the name of Mr. Tarn, the Ministry of Health, gave me an opportunity to clean some of the vaccination centers and
Wow.
stuff like that. And he ain't turn back. He ain't turn back from there, I was just give big thanks to all the people that give me the opportunity to think. I can remember one time my secretary was making a call inquiring about a job, and she told me when she was inquiring with job, and she was giving the woman my name at the business. The woman was typing my name in the computer,
Mhm.
googling my name,
Well, she was searching to see what pops up.
what pops up,
Mhm.
and I said, "Oh, okay." So when she told me about it, I went and googled my name now,
Mhm.
and
What popped up? What came up, Shamar?
huh?
What came up?
She see him, what he was charged for and all
Right.
that there, and
Mhm.
I believe that is why don't care how good the portfolio was that my secretary put forward.
Mhm.
Through seeing what she saw, the woman seeing what she saw,
Yeah.
she didn't give me the word.
That's part of your life that can never be erased. It's
You know,
like a stand on your character.
Yeah, so that's why I will give a big thanks,
Mhm.
to all the people that give me the opportunity to show what I can do as a rehabilitated prisoner.
That's definitely a topic we have to touch on in this series at some point, rehabilitation, because you and I discussed that
Yeah, for sure.
already.
Yeah.
But let's continue here. 19 minutes
let's
after
keep
7,
it.
Imran. We
Yeah,
got like
yeah.
11 minutes left. We still in touch on solutions yet.
Yeah, so we get in there now. So let's hear from our guests about what are their thoughts on some of the things that can be done. Who wants to go first?
Ladies first.
Okay. As the issue of crime is multifaceted, the solutions are also multifaceted.
Mm-hmm.
And I have jotted just a few because obviously I can't go through them all. I want to address though the issue of enabling behavior.
Right.
I believe that a lot of from my research, it is extremely troubling the amount of parents, especially mothers, that I see enable the behavior of their children and encourage them, hide them, support their criminal activities and so on. Mothers, sisters and mothers that want to make them go to work, have them home doing nothing in the house and giving them money. we have to address these things, grandmothers, etc. And then when the son commits a crime, not my child, not my boy. My boy is a good boy. My boy is the next best thing to Jesus. I have seen that.
Are you a see? Would you see? Would you
We
see
need to
Kim
stop
also?
this enabling behavior among our stop, mothers. Stop it.
Yeah. Would you see also,
You're
Kim?
not giving your children any opportunity to be better.
I think Imran is trying to ask a question.
Yeah, but I know Kim's passion is coming through, right?
Yeah, loud and proud.
Yeah, but I one of the things that I've also noticed on social media is whenever somebody goes to prison now, under in the comment section is, you know, free this body, free that, and if anybody says anything to the extent of, well, the person, if they did not do the crime, they would not be going to prison. Everybody comes for that person.
Must come a road.
I was just about to say that. It must
Yeah.
come a road. So that goes back to my second point here, which is that our value system need to be changed. I sit back and I read the comment section quietly most of the time on social media, and I'm like, we are going to hell in a basket.
Yeah, it's kind of disturbing for you a lot of the time.
Yes, because I'm like, our value system is changing. It's eroded. We have no more. As somebody said at work today, the moral compass has changed. I see it every day. I see how we float our laws, running through red lights, cursing the police, people cross pedestrian crossing. It's just everything. It's just an erosion of our value system. So we need to rein back in our values. What the things we learned at school? Yes, please, no, please. How to speak to people, how to deal with the same conflict I spoke about earlier. We have to work with our young people. I go back to the early thing. Most of our crime is committed by young people. We have to engage them. We have to do a lot of community engagement. We have to target the vulnerable in our community, the at risk, which we've started to do. The drug trade is another issue that people go and get involved in, and in many times it does not end well. They either hospital, cemetery, or jail. We already know that's how it all comes. People get greedy, people get jealous. The drug trade is a business that it is not a normal business. It is a criminal activity, and many times it does not end well. So we have to encourage people from engaging in the drug trade. And as I said earlier, we have to give more opportunities for our marginalized youth. I heard Shamar just now talk about opportunities. We have to give more opportunities to our young men.
Sure.
Belonging. A lot of them join gangs because they want to belong. When I talk to them, they talk about my gang is a family. So it's, as we talked earlier about the push and pull factor. We have the push is, they have issues within the home, and it pushes them away, and they find love and support on the block. We have to then embrace our young people and welcome, and that's why we need a lot more mentors in the school system, and basically embrace our young people and steer them away from a life of crime. So those are just some of the issues that we need to, and of course, we have to address the problem of the gun trade. We have to stop the the gun trade. We have to stop the hemorrhaging, stop the gun coming through our ports. Without the guns, people say that if there's not a gun, there will be a knife. But the reality is, if we train our young people, as I said, in conflict resolution, and we get these guns off the streets, I think that we will see a much safer and better Barbados.
Sure.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, definitely. That was a mouthful. I don't even know if she's left anything for you to see.
No, I think so. I am happy to report that she covered really the multiplicity of the issues. And I would just say, or I would reiterate here, we need to see crime as a public health problem. And if we see crime as a public health problem, the same way that we respond to COVID so strategically and so forth, that we have to treat the crime the same way. And that begins, as I said, with a careful analysis of the problem and the causes. But after that, we have to take a whole of country approach where we leverage now all of the services, the education sector, our social care services, our educational sector, as I said, the justice system. All of those various organs of society must come together to deal with this problem in a multifaceted way. That's the only way we can get out of this.
Yes,
I
I
would say,
absolutely agree. One of the things that I have come to realize is a really powerful point that you made about belonging, Kim. This is critical, because belonging influences belief, and belief shapes behavior. Our identity does not start with who am I, but who do I belong to? You know, I want to be just like my father. I want to be just, so from the time you find a space to belong, all of a sudden you want to know, you find yourself believing the same things that those people believe.
Mhm.
You find yourself behaving the same way that those individuals behave. That's one of the things that I experienced. My father was prickle. I mean, my dad was given to drugs, you know, from a very, I only knew my dad, you know, like 9, 10, 11, as somebody who was addicted to drugs, tried to kill himself on 2 occasions. And I always felt like a problem. My father tried to commit suicide twice, almost died on the second occasion. You know, my uncle, you know, was the closest thing to a father to me. My uncle was a criminal. My uncle was a robber and a thief. There were guns in the house, a dime a dozen, right? We would go into the ghetto, go into the gully and shoot and so forth. And so I would have a lot of issues at home, but I felt like the block was a place where I belonged.
Mhm.
You know, and that sense of belonging, all of a sudden, I grew up in Sunday school, but check me now talking about marijuana grew on Solomon's grave, and I just playing away was smoking, you know, 50, 20 joints a day. I started, because facts don't change people's minds, friendships do. It's people's minds don't change unless they change their tribe. And the second thing that I also think is really important is this idea of not just awareness, but accessibility. So many young people may be aware of what the alternatives are, but in their mind, is this accessible to me? Like, can I, like you, is UWI for me? You know, like UWI for me, man. I grew up in ghetto, I went parking, saying, you know, community college in for me, you know, polytechnic in for me. This is all I ever knew. This is all I know. And they become casualties of the culture. And so I think one of the things that we have to do in our intervention is to not only give our young people something to say no to, but even more powerful, we have to give them something to say yes to. We have to give them a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning, help them to understand that their life have value, so that from that place, they make better choices, better decisions. So yeah, I agree with all that you guys said. Shamar, anything else from you? And then Scott, man, you can take it away, bro.
Yeah.
If you made a part 2, 3, and 4 of this.
We got 6 coming, don't worry.
Yeah. What I would say is that it's not all about bashing the youths. It's not all about that. It is about gaining compliments too. You gotta compliment the youngsters that come out and get involved in the ASH program and stuff like that. It show that they're willing, they want work if the avenue open up. They're willing to work.
Mhm.
You understand? When you pass inside the road and they are cleaning up the road, they are cleaning up. You understand? So
Right.
it's show that, and they're coming out and they're doing it. So they're showing that as long as avenue present itself, they're willing to go forward. Commend the young men that selling the vegetables and the fruits,
Juices.
the juices, you know,
Akis on the
the
side,
Akis,
boyfriend them all the
you
time.
know. So in the midst of we highlighting the crime and violence, we still got some good ones out there, and as long as doors open up and stuff, they're willing to step through it. So we need to also compliment them as well. You know what I mean? We let them know, well, we see you.
Yeah, that's
We
good.
see you, because them now gonna be the light
Right.
in the mix now. Are they like, yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like the ones that might be slightly drifting, was he complimenting, he seeing what he doing, what he want to do good things to and get compliment to. Or he want to just saying, my eyes don't sound that thing. He just say he father.
Right.
You want to say up and on fall far from tree and all kind of thing. I want to see you. Are you here? You know? Compliment them too, man.
Right.
Oh, that's what I suppose them down.
But that's why we're here, fighting crime discussions, solutions to crime and violence. Imran,
Yes,
thank you so much for agreeing to co-host. It was awesome.
This is good.
Mr. Professor Dwayne Devonish, thank you so much as well. Kim Ramsay,
you.
criminologist, you made some very interesting comments. We need to have you back so we can address them properly. And of course, thank you so much to our producer, Mr. Dennis Johnson. My name is Scott Le Roc Headley, and we are signing out. Next time, we'll be back next week, and next time we will open up the phone lines and the WhatsApp so we can hear from you. on fighting crime, discussing solutions to crime and violence.